Recording, baby. All right. All right. Welcome everyone to the April edition of the Forest Park Southeast Neighborhood Association meeting. Start off with some ground rules. If you have questions online, please enter them into the chat. We ask for no interruptions. If you have a question, raise your hand. We can pass you the mic. And as always, please behave with common courtesy. Today's agenda, we'll start out with public comments. We'll head into the treasurer's report, ward updates, neighborhood updates from Ron Coleman, the crime and safety report from Officer Walker. Captain Thomas Ziff should be here today to do some introductions. And then we'll get into news and events, and then we'd like to talk about a block captain program and get some thoughts from everyone on how that can be shaped. So to start, opening the floor to public comments. If you have anything you'd like to share, please raise your hand and I can pass you the mic and give you a couple minutes to speak. Yes, Parker. Hey.
Thank you, Dan. My name is Parker Loveless, and I am running for the committeeman position in the new 9th Ward. As you're probably aware, the city of St. Louis contracted from 28 wards down to 14, and of course, have the good fortune of being endorsed by our Alderman Michael Browning. Thank you so much, Michael. Dan and I go back a little ways. Back in February of last year, he helped us as we were organizing the aldermanic forums that were held at Metro High School. That was done by my wife and myself with a cadre of other persons from the community. And from that, we formed the core for a new 9th Ward Democratic Club. We're currently meeting at Urban Chestnut over on Manchester and Taylor on the third Thursday of each month. This month, our guests are going to be State Senator Carla May, the City Treasurer, Adam Layne, and the gubernatorial candidate, Crystal Quaid, will be coming out to address us, as will Michael. So if you have an opportunity to be with us, 7:30 on Thursday at Urban Chestnut. Let you know a little bit more about myself. I currently hold the office of 28th Ward Committeeman. Of course, the 28th Ward now is like those other 14 wards have gone the way of the dodo bird. But since that time, we have busied ourselves, again, organizing that forum, and we've written new bylaws and elected a slate of officers and have been for a number of months now operating the new 9th Ward Democratic Club. So we invite you to come out. Hopefully, if you see what's going on there, get some education about the different things that are going on at the state and local level. You'll feel comfortable in voting for me on August 6th. That's when that comes up. I also function as treasurer of that Democratic Club. The other things that I've lived in the neighborhood for 38 years, my wife and I. My wife is running for committee woman. Her name is Deborah, so you might want to make a note of that. But more importantly, myself, because I have competition. So I'm coming out to you to ask you for your support, for your vote, and hopefully you'll see your way clear to support me when the time comes in August. At this time, if you have any questions about me or the office or anything of that nature, I'd be happy to answer them at this time. Thank you. I've got some literature here. I'll pass that out as I make my way to the door. Thank you so much. And thank you, Dan, for allowing me to speak.
Yep. Thank you. Anyone else like to provide some public comment? Yep. Like to share a name?
Yeah. Hey, I'm Joe. I live in 4500 block Gibson. I was curious if anybody had any updates about the North Point development and whether you intended to discuss that in your neighborhood updates tonight or not. Do you intend to? You do. Okay. And then if anybody else had anything or strong feelings about it or thoughts, I would just encourage them to share them because I'm curious what the neighborhood is thinking, what people are thinking. I don't have strong feelings, so I don't know what the updates would be. But
Thanks. We have a few more minutes for public comments. If anyone would like to make a public comment.
I'll make one.
Yeah,
Hey, can we start these meetings like maybe saying the Pledge of Allegiance or hey, maybe a prayer? There's been some terrorist supporters shutting down other cities, and the Palestinians and Iranians, these anti-Israel things, and nationalism and pride in it. Maybe we should say the Pledge of Allegiance or prayer. Kind of let everybody know what side we're on.
noted. Thank you.
All right.
Can I second that?
Any other public comments from anyone here today? Rachel, you raised your hand?
Yeah, thanks, Dan. It's Rachel Siegert. I'm the chair of the Forest Park Southeast Development Committee and also a resident. I just wanted to share, I was just on a call with Abdul at Park Central, and he wanted me to let everyone know that there's some information on the Park Central website now pertaining to the North Point development. There's updated site plans and renderings and things like that that are just now available for folks who want to peruse that ahead of Saturday's meeting. I'm sure Michael will give an update on that later today, but if you go to Park Central Development's website, and I'll post a link in the chat and scroll down, there's a bullet that says learn more, and you can find site plans and all of the updated information and some answers to the community's questions on that website. But I'll post it in the chat so Dan has it for circulation.
Cool. Thank you, Rachel. I'll pull up Park Central's website right now. Where would that be?
If you go to the homepage and scroll down a little bit,
Oh,
there.
right there.
And so, yep, right there. And then there's the updated site plans, renderings, and variances, and all of that is there, all new information.
Cool. So yeah, if you go to Park Central's website on the homepage, you can find a 24-page document on updates. And then, of course, this weekend, they have there's an open house that anyone is welcome to attend. We'll have more information on that in some coming slides. But yeah, if you'd like updates between now and then, you can go to parkcentraldevelopment.org. All right, let me. All right, we're gonna move on to Treasurer's Report. Last month we had about $16 in expenses for Zoom, $75 in dues and donations, with the ending cash of $24.8126. Most of this money will likely be going towards our event towards the end of the year, the Forest Park Southeast Great Gathering, in which every year we provide free food from a food truck and have the neighborhood out to celebrate the wonderful neighborhood that we live in. If you would like to be a dues paying member, membership is paid, you can. You can pay via Cash App or cash or check. Typically, in years past, dues were about $10, but to make being a dues paying member more accessible, you can pay what you can. If you'd like to pay by cash or check, you can talk to me after this, and I can help you out. Moving on, ward updates. I'll pass the mic over to Alderman Browning.
Thank you, Dan. Hi, everybody. Michael Browning, 9th Ward Alderman. First, I'll start with announcing the North Point open house this weekend. It's going to be over at SWU High School in the SI Commons area. It'll be from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. And of course, Dan has a graphic because he's great. So that is something that everyone should be able to walk over to, but if you need to drive, there is parking available just off of Oakland Avenue. The it will be an open house style, so there will be different boards covering different topics where you can go around and talk to North Point staff to answer any questions you might have about the project. But there will be a short presentation at 10:15 a.m. if you can make that. Otherwise, you can come anytime between the hours of 10 a.m. and noon to hear more about that project. And we encourage you all to come out. I will certainly be there. We're going to have lots of good information on both phases of the project. So what we did here is we delayed the engagement date back to April 20th. On purpose so that we could really gather all the information to answer everyone's questions. We knew there were a lot of questions about parking, about traffic, so we wanted to get time to complete those studies so we could get accurate information for everybody. So that will be again this Saturday at 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. and I hope to see you there. Want to say something about Parker Loveless. As he mentioned, I have endorsed him for 9th Ward Committeeman. Parker and his wife, Deborah, were instrumental in setting up the new 9th Ward Democratic Club. I don't know if any of you have ever tried to start a club, but it is not easy to do. And this club regularly has attendance between 30 to 50 people every meeting. And that is because they always have great speakers lined up. And I'm not counting myself as one of those, but I am counting last time we had Chief Tracy, we had Senator Steve Roberts, we had State Representative Kimberly Ann Collins, we had the sheriff candidates. Sounds like a really good lineup this time, so would hope to see you all out there. It does meet in the neighborhood over at Urban Chestnut, Thursday, thank you. Third Thursday of every month. And it's always a very educational time, and you get to hear all sorts of updates about things that you might not otherwise. So encourage everybody to come. The other two things that I want to mention to you tonight are some bills that kind of came to the finish line or didn't quite make it to the finish line at the end of this session. So the Board of Aldermen just ended our 2023-2024 session, and we just began a new session today. We ended the last session yesterday, so back-to-back full board meetings. Some of the bills that we passed through at the very end included red light cameras. We are bringing red light cameras and speed cameras back to our streets in St. Louis. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Weren't those unconstitutional? Yes, the old version of them were, but we have taken careful measure to write this bill to address the unconstitutional issues in there, namely being able to identify the driver that's driving the car and having an actual officer writing the ticket. We understand that this is only part of the solution. We do not think this is going to stop all red light runners. And of course, there will still be people with expired plates or with no plates that will do this. But I think you, as have I, have seen traffic violence on a daily basis in our city. I was traveling down Kings Highway the other day and I witnessed a car just very casually come to a stop at each red light and then casually proceed through it. And that car had a valid plate. So we're hoping that we actually deter this behavior. We've seen in cities like Baltimore that have used this, that there's a 15% reduction in crashes. Now, 15% may not sound like a lot, but that could be your mother, your brother, your friend. So we want to make sure that we are keeping our citizens safe out on the roads. This is what we call a force multiplier, as in we do have the police out there. They are ticketing people. They are pulling people over for reckless driving, for expired plates, for all of that. But in addition to that, they can't be on every single corner at every single intersection. So we're going to be applying these to the intersections that have been proven to be most dangerous. We are going to try to be taking every measure to be careful about how we're applying this so that we're not just putting them in the, focusing on areas of the city where, people live in poverty, or focusing on areas of the city which might feel like it's more targeted. We're trying to make sure that we put these in the intersections where we feel people are getting hurt, and using the data to back that up. We also have robust review put in place. We passed a bill that makes sure that there's oversight to surveillance technology in St. Louis. So any type of technology that is used is going to have a use plan submitted to the Board of Aldermen, and the Board of Aldermen will review it to make sure that we're protecting your civil liberties and that we're keeping our citizens safe from over surveillance. So we're hopeful that this will make a difference out on our streets. You should see that rolled out in about a year. It takes some time to set the program up, but we do hope that that will make some progress on that issue. The other bill that I want to address is one that didn't quite make it past the finish line. That was Board Bill 227. The goal of this bill was to make it easier to open homeless shelters in the city of St. Louis. And while I am wholeheartedly in support of the idea of providing housing to the people who need it most in our city, the bill had some technical issues that made me unable to support it this time around. Namely that it needed a zoning companion bill. I don't want to get too in the weeds here, but in order to take effect, and in order to require the administrative hearings that the bill was attempting to require, you needed to have a companion bill that addressed the zoning code as well as the building code. So I expressed those concerns to the sponsor. She decided to hold the vote anyway. I voted no, it did not pass. However, I had a very productive conversation, or at least I felt it was very productive, yesterday with the sponsor, and we are coming back at it this new session. We will be focused on trying to make sure we are opening the types of housing that we really need to be opening, namely rapid rehousing, transitional housing, and what we call permanent supportive housing. Those types of housing, I want to emphasize, tend to have very low impact on the neighborhood. In fact, some already exists around the neighborhood and in the ward, and you don't know that it exists. We're talking about making sure that people have somewhere to lay their head, somewhere safe to be after they lose their housing. And you might have an image of your head of a homeless person being someone with a mental health problem or someone with a drug addiction. And while that is true of many people, it's only true of about 20% of people who are actually currently unhoused. And we have other solutions that address those needs as well. We have some wonderful institutions in the ward, in fact, that address those issues. So I address this to you because I want you all to know that I am working on trying to make sure that we do have housing for people available, because none of us like to see people out on the street suffering or in need. But we do need to make sure we're taking a careful approach, evaluating shelters on the impact they have on their surrounding communities, and still allowing that community voice and making sure that these are not going to become disruptive things or things that decrease your quality of life. So it's a careful balance, but I'm positive that we can do this in the new session, and I'm going to be working hard with the sponsor to make that happen. On that note, we are going to have a town hall on May 2nd. Over at New Horizons Methodist Church. That's 4234 Washington Avenue. I'll be sending out an email. I think Dan can help send it out, a neighborhood announcement too. This will be at 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. May 2nd. Again, 4234 Washington. We are going to focus the town hall on the issue of homelessness in St. Louis. Why? Because I feel like we're discussing this issue without all the facts and without all the context. It's important to acknowledge what we're currently doing in the city while we have a conversation about what we also need to do to improve our services. And so on that note, I'm going to have Amy Bickford from the Department of Human Services, Alvin Ferguson, who works for the Neighborhood Security Initiative in the Central West End. He's their homeless outreach worker there. We'll have Lisa Potts from the Mental Health Board, and Alderwoman Alicia Saunier, the sponsor of Board Bill 227, will be there to speak about her new efforts. So I believe this is going to be a nice, nuanced, intelligent conversation, and I urge you all to join us for that. We are, again, holding it at 4234 Washington. The reason it's at that location is because this is part of the old 18th Ward and in the new 9th Ward, and we haven't had a town hall over in that section yet, so we wanted to make sure we're getting everywhere in the ward. And with that, I'll ask if anyone has any questions. Yes.
I have a question about the red light cameras and what kind of enforcement mechanisms will be in place for like repeat offenders who aren't actually paying the tickets? Because I get the sense that people who want to violate traffic laws are going to do it anyway and just not pay those tickets. And then the other question I have is, will there be kind of an evaluation period to see whether it's actually having an effect on some of the, I guess, traffic deaths and accidents?
Yes, so the question was, for those online, is will there be, what happens if someone's a repeat offender, and will there be some type of evaluation system to make sure it's working? The answer to both of those is yes, we will have the ability to see if someone's doing it over and over again, make sure that we build in steeper fines, or in the case that they're not paying the fines, at some point that is a moving traffic violation and they will get a warrant. The other thing is making sure that it's working. So anywhere that they're actually put in place, we will be monitoring to make sure that they are in fact reducing crashes or incidents of running red lights in that location. The bill itself is very carefully crafted to make sure that we're protecting people's rights, that we're really trying to focus this on the solution of not having people run the lights. And as I said, it's not going to get everybody, but we know that people run red lights for all sorts of reasons. Sometimes the timing's bad. On that note, the city's also investing in making sure that we hook up all of our signals with fiber optic cables to make sure they can communicate with each other and actually work so that you're not getting stuck at every single red light as you travel. But really, there's no excuse to run a red light. There's just none, just to be very frank with you all. It's a dangerous thing to do. You're putting someone else's safety at risk, and you just don't have a good reason unless it's an emergency, which almost never is. There's just not a good reason to do it. You're not a law-abiding citizen if you're running red lights. So we want to make sure that we are holding people accountable. And like I said, these have been instituted in other cities to great success. So we're hoping that we actually do see a reduction. That doesn't mean we're not also looking at traffic engineering as a way of increasing safety. That doesn't mean that we're not also doing other means of enforcement. And we're also trying to bolster education in the city because, as you all know, in Missouri, we don't have required driver's education, but the city does need to find a way to pay for it if we are going to be trying to get it in our schools. And we have recently gotten a grant to do that. And we're going to be using the money from the red light cameras to go back into a fund called the Neighborhood Traffic Safety Fund that will go into both the engineering aspect and the education aspect. So we're really trying to hit the 3 E's of enforcement, engineering, and education with this approach. Yeah, Joe.
Did you already have an opportunity to look at the updated site plans?
The updated site plans for
North Point.
yes. Did I have the opportunity? Yeah, so I have seen the recent site plans and we will have them at the Saturday meeting.
I can't make the Saturday meeting, and I
Okay.
have a quick question.
Yeah, and they are on the Park Central website.
And I was reviewing them now, and I didn't understand them very easily, and I just had a quick question.
Sure.
You might be able to knock out of the park.
Yeah.
Is the ingress and egress of the updated site plans remain through the neighborhood, or is it all off Kings Highway? For step 1 and for step 2, just 2 questions really.
Yeah, so on phase 1 of the project, which is the one located between Oakland and Arco, half the garage will exit onto Kings Highway directly and enter onto Kings Highway directly at that Oakland intersection. The other half of the garage will exit onto the alley behind the building. The split levels will not be connected to each other, and tenants will be assigned to their spots. I've also talked to the developer about including the price of one parking spot in the rent instead of leaving it optional, because we've seen that when it's left optional, people tend to park outside the building.
So as far as the site plan, that's the same as what they presented, is that right?
That's the same as, it'll be a 1-to-1 parking ratio, yes,
No, I
for
mean,
that building.
the ingress off of Oakland is the same as, they come through the neighborhood to get to that.
Yes, the one half of the garage will be through the neighborhood.
That was-
So we will have information, again, at the town hall, but I'll try to make it available after the event on Saturday, where we have looked at the traffic counts and making sure that we're not adding too much traffic to neighborhood streets. The second phase will have, again, another split garage that will be on either side of the building so that we're not sending all traffic down one street. But that does have to all come through either Shoto or Gibson. The reasoning being is that they asked MoDOT, they have been working closely with MoDOT to figure out what they can do on that site, and MoDOT simply will not allow any access to Kings Highway that close to the on-ramp. So there's all sorts of rules about how that works, and they, tried what they could, but they are just not going to allow that. Same thing with moving the gate on Oakland. There was an idea that you could move the gate back and maybe put all the parking out on Kings Highway. But that causes its own issues and not a possibility at this time. So we want to make sure that we are not impacting the neighborhood with too much traffic. Residential does add very little traffic compared to like commercial uses, but we will have all that information and more on Saturday and hopefully be able to answer any people's questions.
Thanks.
Yes.
Michael, regarding the unhoused approaches or solutions, I believe you enumerated 3 different approaches, and I didn't catch the third one.
Yes, so what I was talking about is the difference between different types of shelter options. And I don't even think it's correct to call them shelters necessarily, because what we're talking about is housing. But on one end, you have the thing that people are most familiar with, which is what we call large congregate shelters. That's the type of thing that usually looks like a gym full of cots. And usually caters to one gender or another, and usually has limited hours of just at night or in inclement weather. Those things can have a large impact on the surrounding neighborhood just by the true nature of it. They're a very what we call low barriers. So you do have people with mental illnesses, you do have people with drug addictions that are going to those spots. And we absolutely need those facilities, but they don't necessarily need to be in the middle of our neighborhoods. The other end of that spectrum is what we call permanent supportive housing. Now that's much more like a room where people are assigned to their room. They have a room to themselves. There's a staff member on site who helps them with their issues, make sure they're taking their medication or helping them out with caseworkers or whatever else they need. Those are the types of things that have very low impact on the neighborhoods they're in. They look like just like any other multifamily house. That's why I say that you actually have some around you that you may not know about. There's not like a sign on it that identifies it. You just walk past it and it operates like a normal house. The good news is that when you put people through the system, very few people actually want to stay at those large congregate shelters. They're kind of dangerous. They're very loud and disruptive. That's really for an emergency, for a couple nights stay. And then you try to get people into the system so they can get into either permanent supportive housing or rapid rehousing or whatever their needs are. Again, emphasizing that not every homeless person is someone with a mental illness. Sometimes it's your neighbor whose house burnt down and they're waiting for the insurance payment and they don't have a home in the meantime. Sometimes it's somebody who had a falling out with their sister who they lived with and they kicked him out. It could be any number of things, and people just need to get back on their feet, and we need to find a way to not have them fall into a worse situation. I don't want to take up too much time, but I'll tell a quick story. Back when we were considering some bills in the fall, we had some people come testify about the bills, and one of the people that testified was a woman who was formerly homeless. She came to us 4 months sober, and she told us that she was sober from dope. And she said she had never tried it before until she became homeless. And then she was in an encampment. She was down on her luck, down on any hope. And a young man came around selling it. And she thought, well, life can't get any worse. And then it did. So she finally got herself clean, got back on her feet, and got out and was able to get housing again. But we don't want people to fall into that situation. We don't want people to be in an encampment where they might end up, addicted to drugs or causing problems or harm come to them in some other ways. So that's why I'm trying to work on this issue, being sensitive to both the needs of communities to make sure that we're not disrupting communities with the types of facilities that might be disruptive, but measuring things based on impact and making sure that we have a home for everybody. Yes, Dan.
Landlords, they provide homes for people, and when you support them and support people reinvested in housing in the city, that'll help the homeless. I appreciate you coming to us as a grant writer from WashU and working on North Point, these big projects. But in your running, when you ran, you said that you were going to be a full-time, you stressed you're going to be a full-time alderman, and you were going to be accessible and sensitive to constituents. So what's going on with you reaching out? I mean, if we talk to you a meeting last and you say you'll email us, I mean, is that off the table now because the big guys need the money?
No, I treat everyone the same, but I am getting the information that you requested. It's just taking a long time. So I emailed somebody at the Community Development Association looking for the kind of grants that you're looking at, and I still have your card on my desk. I'm still needing to email you. I just am waiting to get that information. So sorry that's taken a bit, but
we want you to contact us. Let us
absolutely
know what's going on.
Yeah, understand that. Yeah, and for that matter, anybody that needs to reach out to me always can. Email is browningm@stlouis-mo.gov. Try to get back to people quickly and try to help you with any issue that you have. If you have any city issues, anything that deals with, trash or trees or, abandoned vehicle, you can always reach out to Ron Coleman. He's our neighborhood improvement specialist extraordinaire, and Ron's pretty great at working with our departments to make sure those issues get addressed. Any other questions? Okay, well, I see that we have some other attendees, including Treasurer Adam Layne. I thought I saw him walk in. There he is. And Sheriff Candidate Alfred Montgomery is here as well. So I'll hand the mic back and let you continue your meeting, Dan. Thanks.
We'll jump into crime and safety report with Officer Walker.
Hello, everyone. Quick update. Captain Zip will not be joining us tonight due to the homicide we had last night over on Hartford. He had to work all night. He did say he will come out next month and speak with everyone. Not a whole lot. I did bring you guys call for service, which basically just lists like all the reports that we've taken in Forest Park Southeast for the last month from March 1st up until this past Sunday on the 14th. So if you want to see what's going on in your neighborhood, I have that up here for you. I also bought some safety pamphlets for you. Getting a lot of calls about, you know, what can I do if I'm at home, my house get broken into, if I'm on the street, if I get robbed. So it's just some safety tips up here for you can read through, see if you know any of those tips will help you out. If you have any questions about any of the information that's in those pamphlets, you can reach out to me. Forest Park Southeast has been in what we call our mission zones, one of the neighborhoods that we focus on due to crime and other things that comes up. So we've been in you guys' neighborhood a whole lot working, myself, overtime officers, and the district officers, so you may have seen them out, you know, patrolling, riding up and down your streets. And that's just basically us trying to keep the crime out of your neighborhood. With that, I've also noticed a lot of parking violations for parking enforcement and myself, so that may be something I will be picking up on come next week. So if you know anybody, you want to give them a heads up, let them know that Officer Walker will be out in the neighborhood next week. And I will be ticketing those parking violations because it's been a lot, especially a lot of folks parking in front of fire hydrants, wrong ways, stop signs, crosswalks, you name it, we got it in Forest Park Southeast. So I will be handling those next week. It's a warning, so they have a few days to get it together. Totaled quite a few cars also. So that is something that I will be working on. Burglaries, Forest Park Southeast hasn't had a lot, but we have been noticing quite a few in some of our other neighborhoods within the district. A lot of these are coming from the garage burglary. So if you can lock those garage doors, lock your windows, make sure they're secure, add a camera, add an alarm, whatever it is that you can do to make sure your garage is secure, please do. And the same for houses. Don't forget to check your windows, lock your doors, those type of things. Turn on your alarms, check your windows, light it up outside. The brighter the better. Crime criminals are gonna go somewhere where it's darker. So the brighter you light it up, they're gonna go somewhere else. Whether, you know, motion lights or just keeping your lights on, front porch, back porch lights, they work. A lot of people don't like leaving their lights on. They think, oh, this is gonna run up my bill. But actually, your refrigerator costs more than you leaving your front porch light on. Car thefts, that's another thing also, not a whole lot in you guys' neighborhood, but we also want to remind you, if you can get a club, put a club on your car. They're selling cars, doesn't matter make or model, it's just not Kias and Hyundais. The club is on there, that'll deter them, make them go somewhere else, work a little hard on somebody, you know, go somewhere where it's easy for them to get a car. If your car has a club on it, they know, hey, I gotta work a little harder, I'm gonna go somewhere else. So that's a tip. Also, gun thefts, keep getting those people leaving their guns inside their cars. We are starting to issue people summonses for those. So if you go somewhere and they say, hey, you cannot bring this gun in my business, and you just go stick that gun up under your car seat, you stick it in your center console or your glove box, that vehicle gets stolen or somebody breaks into your car and steals your gun, we will issue you a summons for that. Best way to get around that, you can get you a gun lock, have it bolted down inside your car. That makes it a little bit hard. That way you can say, hey, I secured this gun in my vehicle. I did my part. Lock them down so you don't be, you know, get surprised when they say, hey, we're going to issue this summons because you left your weapon inside your car and it wasn't secure. With that, that is basically all I have. Again, if you have any questions for me, you want to talk one-on-one, you can always reach me at my phone number, or you can send me an email. My information is up there. If it's something in particular you want to know about, a certain case, try to give me you can give me a call. I can give you as much information as I can. There's some things that we can't share, but I will provide you with the information that we can. If I had any questions or anything for me.
I'm looking at page 3 on the sheet. It says 4300 Shoto Avenue auto theft. Was that a resident or a construction worker?
I don't have it off the top of my head because I just printed out the same thing. If you give me a call, I'll let you know. Most likely in the 4300 block of Shoto, you said? It's probably gonna be a house. Mhm.
Is this year, has there been like a significant rise in domestic violence homicides? Because we had the one on Gibson, there was one on the North Riverfront like last week, and then there was the Tower Grove last night.
No, I think that it's just something sporadic, and like you said, you're just dealing with a whole lot of things. It could be domestic, it can be, mental issues, it can just be, crime of passion, arguments, just all over, but it's not just, anything particular, just something that happened. Anyone else? All right.
Thank you, Officer Walker. I'm gonna pass the mic over to Ron Coleman for neighborhood updates.
Good evening, everyone. Ron Coleman, your neighborhood improvement specialist for Forest Park Southeast, Kings Oak, and then some other neighborhoods. Officer Walker does a great job. She is really accessible to you guys, so I hope you do not feel uncomfortable just calling or emailing her. That's what she does. So she's your liaison. She helped me with a business whose employee was blasting loud music every day, shaking nearby buildings, and she went and just talked to them. So those kind of nuisance issues that you may not want to get somebody in trouble, but you still want to solve the problem. She's great at that. And also I can help with that too. I can give you an example. In the last couple of weeks, a resident called me. There were new tenants that had moved in and immediately started selling drugs in the alley. So I just, emailed a few people, and I think the problem was solved pretty quickly. Feel free to, if you don't feel comfortable calling the police, you can work through me and I'll keep everything anonymous if you choose. Just today I've dealt with squatters, parking tickets, signage issues. I'll be meeting with someone from traffic division tomorrow to review a few signage issues in the neighborhood. So if you have any suggestions about changes of signs that need to happen, let me know and I'll bring that up tomorrow. See me after the meeting and give you some other examples of some things here. Oh, barking dogs. Got a couple of those calls lately. It's really challenging. Just try to talk to your neighbors. Because the police can't do a lot. The noise ordinance isn't really helpful for dogs. So just try to be patient, try to ask the neighbor if you could let the dog get to know you so it knows who you are, knows your smell, all of that, if you feel safe about it. But that has helped in a lot of situations. Also, I can offer mediation through some services that we work with. If you know neighbors that are having trouble getting along or solving problems, just let me know and I'll hook you up with the mediation. Just encourage you to patronize the businesses in your neighborhood. It's really important that they are your neighbors too. Hopefully they're good neighbors, but we want to keep them here, encourage them to continue to grow. They hire people from your neighborhood. They keep the building from being vacant. So spend your money here in the neighborhood. It makes for a better quality of life for you as well. But don't hesitate to call me if the bar noise gets too loud at night. I've had to make a few of those calls lately as well. And then I think, Craft Alliance. I met with the CFO of Craft Alliance over on Delmar. They moved in recently. They offer community classes in various things you might be interested in. In fact, talk to Dan about having them come speak at maybe a future meeting so they could let you know what they offer. But it's a really cool space and they've got free classes and it's a great venue. They also have a gift shop that you can go in and buy artwork.
The address.
It's on Delmar. I don't know the exact address, but Google it. But it's It's between
5080 Del Mar.
5080 Del Mar between Kings Highway and Union on the south side of the street. All right, are you talking about the electronics recycling event? Did you know about it?
Bring it up, yeah.
Okay.
More.
Okay, so there is going to be an electronics recycling event, so you don't have to just throw that stuff in the dumpster. This is next Saturday, not this Saturday, but Saturday, April 27th from 8 to 11. You can take any of your electronics over to the old recycling center on Kings Highway and 44, almost under the bridge there, but right, I think everybody hopefully knows where that is, just south of the water department, but before you get to the highway, there's a little driveway up there and there'll be people there taking your items. Next Saturday, 8 to 11, put it in your calendar. That's all I've got.
Is there a time for that event, Ron?
8 to 11.
Thank you, sir. I'm sorry, just.
Is there a fee involved since most of the electronics recycling places do fees?
I
Or is it just like going to the
believe it's waived this time, yeah. We also, I'll let the treasurer answer any questions you have, but we'll be, if you have any issues with getting a ticket that you weren't supposed to get because you do have a legitimate parking tag or you've had a problem with getting a residential parking permit, talk to me and I'll help with that. So, okay.
Yeah, one of the topics I was going to bring up was an apply in-person event for permit parking, and Adam Layne is here. He can probably elaborate on it a little bit more than I can.
Hey everyone, so Adam Layne, City Treasurer. I have two big things. I'll start with saying thank you to Ron and Alderman Browning for bringing up all the issues and letting us know when people need to get their permit and haven't been able to. I know we're single-handedly giving you another job, but you've handled it really, really well. About this, yes. So, well, let me do a show of hands first. If you are able to get a permit or you're eligible for a parking permit and you haven't gotten one, can you raise your hand? Or you're having trouble getting one?
Yeah, if we're eligible but can't get one.
Okay, great. So I will talk to you directly. So one of the things, but you know it exists, right? Okay.
We've talked on text. I'm Joe Deacon.
Oh, okay. All right. Nice to meet you in person. So we are having an in-person event. We're in a couple of phases and I'll explain that in a second, but we've done some in-person events already. I know there were some senior citizens who wanted in-person help doing that. So we got them to do that. We did 2 in-person events over at Park Central. We also have a full-time person, I think I mentioned this last time, dedicated to it. So some people wanted to do it on the phone, which was fine, and upload their information later. So we do have a lot of ways that we can get you on this electronic system. We're in phase 1, so we get a lot of emails and calls about, well, what about changing this or doing that, or I have this special situation. I'd let people know we are keeping track of all of those. But right now, especially since this is a new system, we don't want to just overload it and do all the things at once and then fix all the things. So we're doing it in phases and we'll have a letter going out so that everyone can see what those phases are. But phase 1 is get everyone in the system. We have 2 special types of permits right now, one for vets and one for seniors. But other than that, we're mainly trying to get all the addresses in, make sure that everyone's on one system. We don't want to change something and then we realize we need to get more people in the system and then they have to get up to speed with that change. So phase 1 is get everyone in. We're about 98% of the way there, so I'm happy about that. Phase 2 is special permits, but more so on the medical side. So those residents who have people who are visiting them on a regular basis for medical situations, we want to prioritize that in phase 2. Phase 3 is looking at visitor parking. Someone sent me a calculation and they were saying, was that you? No, that wasn't you. Someone said we were texting about, and they said, well, I have someone over 4 days a week and then that's $360 a year. And I said, well, that was you. All right. I was like, well, for $1 a day. No, I didn't say that. But yes, that is something that we're also looking at, but we're also figuring out, well, what does it mean to be a guest? So that will be phase 3. I think phase 2 will be pretty short, but we are looking into all these things. So I don't want you to think we're not. We meet every single week to talk about it. And like I said, dedicated a full-time person, but we'll send out that correspondence so everyone's in the know about what we're doing when, so you don't feel like it's just this amorphous blob of information or lack of information. So wanted to say that, again, we have an in-person event coming up where we can get your address in there. The system is very particular, but we like it to be particular because it avoids issues down the road. Second thing that I'll say, and hopefully this helps with you, Alderman Browning and Mr. Coleman too, derelict vehicles and cars. So I think I mentioned this a long time ago, but the tow lot for this city is at maybe 125% capacity. So they have more cars than they can get rid of. And so it's very hard to tow cars. So you might have heard from a public safety officer, neighborhood specialist or police officer that they've tagged it, our parking enforcement has ticketed it, but there's nowhere to put it because it's not a priority car. So right now, those cars that are prioritized in towing are ones that are just dangerous. We are entering, so the parking division doesn't own a tow lot, but we're actually in the process of finalizing a contract with a tow lot so that we can increase our capacity and be able to tow those cars. So we hope to get more derelict and abandoned cars off the road so that our roads look a lot better, our sidewalks look a lot better, our city looks a lot better. And then for those who don't know, because then people will say, well, I have a parking ticket, or maybe I got a parking ticket and I have a permit and I wasn't supposed to get it. My car's gonna get towed. So secret insider information, which is also public and on the website, you don't get towed until you have 4 tickets that all triple. So basically 4 super delinquent tickets. So if you get a ticket on a Tuesday, no one's coming for your car in a tow truck on a Thursday. But want to make sure we get that information out. But even when when we're able to ramp up the towing program, it's going to be more for those derelict cars, those cars that have been nuisances for a long time, and getting those off the street. So just wanted to mention those 2 things. Yes.
Quick question. I know that the website and yourself have referred people to Will Hans's. If there are tickets that are inappropriately administered, it does seem like Will's perspective is that he doesn't have control over getting the ticket paid, but if you give it to another party, and then that person is in charge of it, or that party.
Yep. So Will is primarily over this program, but parking tickets aren't factor of just this program or getting a parking ticket. So he's just letting you know, I don't void them, me being Will, but he will forward them to the parking supervisor who will review it and just make sure.
And once he has done that, it will be voided eventually.
Yep. And you can see that online. You just look at the,
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I would say 10 times out of 10 in this area. Yes.
I applied for a license last fall. Went online and ran into some trouble. You had your
oh yeah, we did meet. Yep.
And so I went down with my papers. They were very kind to me, and we got my tag and we got the tag for my wife, and Layne himself worked with me. So
I thought you looked familiar.
A big deal, and I was very pleased.
Well, thank you. Any other questions or concerns? All right, and I did ask for that show of hands, but if you know people, neighbors that are having issues, but they're not here, please share the information with them. We've tried to send out letters, we've put notices on cars. We try to reach everyone that we can, but it's just hard to reach everyone. So if there are people that you know that haven't heard and need the support, please pass our information along to them. All right, thank you. I know that wasn't too brief, but thanks.
No, elaborate and eloquent. Thank you so much. We have a couple topics left to cover, but I know Alfred Montgomery, I feel like you came to share some words about your candidacy, I suppose. Give you a couple minutes.
Good evening, everyone. I am Alfred Montgomery. I'm the candidate running for sheriff for the city of St. Louis. Election day is on August 6th of 2024 is the primary. I was not prepared to speak today. I'm just leaving our graduation ceremony for some of those deputies who are post-certified. One of the reasons that I'm running is because criminal justice reform is necessary in order to move our city forward. What we have seen in the past few months and the past few weeks is totally unacceptable from our criminal justice system. We have seen individuals running out of the court building. We have seen judges express how they feel unsafe in the courthouse. And last but not least, what's most disturbing is we have seen an individual that's disabled, that's being held innocent until proven guilty, lie in his feces for hours and his attorney is denied access to him. It is a huge problem in our city, and now is not the time to take our foot off the accelerator when it comes to reforming our criminal justice system, and we have to do that through our sheriff's office. If we arrest an individual at the age of 16 years old, and let's say we keep him for 10 years, he will get out at the age of 26 with the mindset of a 16-year-old. Now, we know that it's going to be crime in our city. We know that we are going to have to arrest individuals in our city. But if we are going to incarcerate these individuals, why not educate these individuals to break down the barriers of repeated offenders? We have to stop repeated offenders. Most of the crimes that's happening in our city today comes from repeated offenders. So if we release these individuals out without a roadway out, they will do the same thing that they did before, to eat, to feed themselves, or to clothe themselves. So now we have to implement a re-entry program through our sheriff's office for our citizens here in St. Louis City to make sure that not only that we are safe, because once we break down the barriers of repeated offenders and having repeated offenders on the street, we break down crime. And crime is what happens in a city that goes, excuse me, I'm sorry. Crime is something that happens in a city, a lawless city. And this is not a lawless city. Our city is a city that's constantly moving forward. The next 10 years, you will see a city that's advanced, and we have to start now. So thank you again, ladies and gentlemen. You can visit my website on Montgomery4sheriff.com. It's Montgomery4sheriff.com. I'm going to give you a pamphlet. You can scan that QR code to visit my website, and you may see a huge Suburban with my beautiful face on it outside, all rolling through the streets of St. Louis City. That is me. You can also scan that QR code to learn more about our platform. Thank you.
Sorry to put you on the spot. Thank you. All right, we're gonna jump into some events and news around the neighborhood. I'll start with the community open house for the North Point Apartments. That is this Saturday, April 20th from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. at SI Commons at SLU. That is 4970 Oakland Avenue. You can get there by carefully crossing Kings Highway and walking down Oakland. But if you need to take your car, parking is in the back behind the Science Center. SI Commons is located right here. It's a short walk away from the parking and a short walk away from our neighborhood as well. There are pamphlets or pieces of paper that were handed out with questions or answers to questions from the last meeting scattered throughout the throughout the tables. But there is also updated information on the Park Central Development website that you can visit, and we'll share out that link after this meeting. Shoda Park mulching and tree watering. Last month, if you walked in Shoda Park recently, you'll see all the trees in Shoda Park have been wonderfully mulched by a group of volunteers last month to keep them from drying out over the heat. We've also cleaned up a lot of the invasive honeysuckle along the fence near the highway. It's starting to look like a real park. It's looking great. So thank you to everyone who volunteered the other month. We are looking for volunteers to water trees from around April to October. If you have the capability to water some trees and watch them grow, reach out to Cammie, who's sitting right over there taking notes from our meeting today about that. Over the winter months, we also did some tree pruning, which requires some type of certification from the city to do on public or city trees throughout the neighborhood. Tuesday on April 23rd at Benton Park, you can actually get clearance to prune City of St. Louis trees. You can take a test, receive a card, giving authority to independently clear and prune trees in the City of St. Louis streets and parks. So if you're able to demonstrate some basic pruning skills after a quick demonstration, you can get a little card that says you can do it, and you can do it. That is Tuesday, April 23rd at 1 p.m. We also have monthly litter cleanups. We held our first one of the year last month. We picked up around 8 bags of trash around the south side of Manchester between Tower Grove, no, Newstead and Boyle. We do it for about 2 hours. We have it every month. Tools are provided. We welcome everyone to join us. We meet at Manchester and Newstead and clean up a different section every month. We're also doing a neighborhood flower planting. We're working with Brightside on planting some annuals in the flower pots there at Newstead and Oakland. Do I have the date on here? I don't, do I? That is May 5th at 8 a.m. Bright and early to beat the heat. We'll meet at Newstead and Oakland for that. There's also volunteer opportunity at Midtown Community Garden to be a garden volunteer. So since 2007, volunteers from Midtown have put fruits and vegetables on the plates of those in need, stocking the shelves of city greens, right down on Manchester. And it takes some volunteers to harvest that. So if you have availability on Tuesdays, Fridays, or Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., would love to get some hands down at Midtown. You can call 314-534-1180 for more information or visit their website to lend a hand. A few more things here. There is an infrastructure committee, and if you would like to apply to be a part of that, there's an application on Park Central Development's website. What is the infrastructure committee, you might ask? Well, they help beautify our neighborhood. They recommend how ward capital be spent. They promote the quality of residential and commercial infrastructure and planning for future infrastructure in Forest Park Southeast. So making recommendations on street paving, ADA ramps, trash cans, lighting situations, in Shoto Park and how that comes to life. It's a wonderful opportunity to help shape the neighborhood you live in. The development committee is also taking applications ongoing. This committee advocates for neighborhood positive developments in Forest Park Southeast, and they review the proposals of where the city would like neighborhood input on development. So that includes reviewing conditional uses, variances, acquisition of city-owned land, and the committee is looking for a minimum of 9 members, a mix of folks from residents to property owners and employees of businesses within the neighborhood. That is not the next meeting date, but if you'd like to apply, applications are on parkcentral.org as well. And then another opportunity to volunteer is the Midtown Young Professional Advisory Board. Members here assist with fundraising and event planning. Commitment is just an hour to a month. You can enjoy networking with other young professionals in your community and helping out with families and children across the neighborhood. Be more active and in their development of being good human beings. So if you're interested, please reach out to admin@midtownstl.org, or you can call 314-534-1180. Any questions over all of those wonderful ways to get involved? All right. Last topic here is, I just wanted to talk about block captain program. We've had some in the past come and go, but kind of looking for a way to build a communication network between block residents and the association. So a way for everyone here to funnel concerns from block residents to the association and help organize, smaller block activities like yard sales or block parties, and the association can help with that. So kind of curious to hear from folks, like how well do you know your neighbors and how do you currently communicate with them? I was watching a Fox Park Neighborhood Association meeting, and they were using a GroupMe for all of their blocks to kind of communicate with one another. I know that some blocks use text chains, but kind of curious to hear if there's any one way that folks tend to talk with their neighbors in mass form. No?
What's up? What's
WhatsApp?
our Facebook page?
Facebook page?
Yeah.
Okay. What would help improve the communication on your block? Is there anything that is challenging right now to really get people in a text chain or a WhatsApp or a Facebook page? Are there any ideas on how to better get people together through communication?
I think that like door hangers and things, sticking things on people's doors
Door hangers?
seems to work the best because we've had a Facebook page for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's only for people that live in the property. So it's not necessarily for the property owners. So it's people on that block just for the people that live there, but it dwindles, it goes up and down, and it's
Mhm.
hard to get, it's people that aren't on Facebook, so they don't get included. So it really tends to be literally knocking on doors
Knocking on doors and telling people to sign up for your WhatsApp
or whatever, yeah.
or whatever, yeah, okay. Any other thoughts around, yeah, Dan?
What would be the benefit of, I mean, from the history of this neighborhood, people are reluctant to even show up at the meetings.
I think having a block,
Going after people.
yeah, I think having a block captain program or a way in which residents can communicate to one another and communicate to the association on block by block concerns, we can pass those on and have stronger conversations around the issues that are affecting the community. If we don't know what's happening, it's hard to help. So just would love to think of ways in which we can better communicate with one another so we can fix those issues.
You have to build trust first. I mean, we
Yeah.
got a bad reputation for a history of going after people, niche groups, jumping on their neighbors, ganging up on them. As people have been forced away from these meetings unless they were in the clique. So, and we need to start by having genuine elections next term where everyone's not a write-in candidate. We actually could convince people to join a neighborhood association that they get something from.
Yeah. All right. With that, I'll wrap up today's meeting. Next neighborhood cleanup is on Saturday, April 27th. Reminder about the community open house this weekend. Flower planting on May 5th, and then our next meeting will be May 20th. All right. That's all for tonight. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, guys.